Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining number 3 of Club Boosting, our club strengthening workshop for membership Mondays in May for Pennsylvania District Kiwanis. We do have some new faces on here today, so it's good to see you. And of course, as a reminder, as you just got the notice, we are recording this for people to refer to or watch at a later time. So again, thanks for joining us tonight. This is our third in a series of our 4-part workshop. The first part was at the beginning of May. It was basically a primer, a why boost, what is to come. And our boost event is designed in a way that you can do all or part of it at your own time frame. So we hope that you'll get at least some type of follow through from some of these things, and that's why we're doing it. We've not quite put it together this way before, but we're excited to do that. Last week we talked a little bit about preparing our club and planning and getting ready to make the invitations, and then tonight we're going to focus mainly on the implementation of the boost and the follow-ups from that. Then next Monday night, part 4, we're going to be going over all of the virtual and electronic tools and resources. So we have a couple new things that we're going to roll out there, and they should be pretty beneficial to you and your clubs. So I want to take just a moment here and recap a little from our boost workshops 1 and 2. Why boost? And for some of you who have been on the call before, please, if you'd like, anybody want to share as to what led you to be interested in this and why you want to boost your club? Don't all speak at once. It messes up the microphone.
All right, I won't. I think everybody, any club could benefit from this by gaining new members, and everyone on here knows that all clubs need new members, more hands, more service. Okay.
I think that's probably the idea behind all of us for wanting to boost our club. And the nice part about the club boost is that, like I said earlier, we can do this at our own time frame. The process can take as long as you need it to. Is it possible to go too fast? Would be a question that I would think might come up. The answer is yes, because as we talked about last week, we want to make sure that our club is ready for the incoming members and to go out and basically sell it to the community. So that was when we talked about preparing our club. The hardest part is going to be the first step and taking that first step. That first step is deciding that we're going to do this, but it also comes with actually starting the work for the boost. And once you see the boost workbook, you'll see how this walks you through a step-by-step process. There's a lot of information that we share with you throughout these processes. We've tried to break it down as much as possible, but sometimes hearing it all together with the book in front of you is even more helpful. We do have the book that is being updated, and it will be available, and we'll make sure to send out that link before we move on. Lisa, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I missed last week. I see that you're recording tonight. Is there a place I can go to see what I missed from last week?
Yes, there is. It should be available, if it's not already, soon on the Pennsylvania Kiwanis membership website. Otherwise, when I stop sharing my screen, I have the links on my email. I'll put it in the chat box for everyone as well. Thank you. Good question. So tonight is all about implementation and follow-ups and executing a successful membership drive or open house is the culmination of the boost. So in this boost, we have the first part is getting member buy-in. The second part is making sure our club is shining and ready to go. And then the third part is all about gearing towards a quote unquote a big event, or the grand finale, if you will. It doesn't have to be a huge event. And usually it is done in such a way that we're inviting people to some type of a membership open house or a showcase for our club to make sure that the people who we're inviting have a reason to be there. They learn about Kiwanis, what your club does in the community, and where it is that they would fit in with that. So I was having a little problems with the actual polls on Zoom. So just by a quick raise of hands or some other type motion there on your screen, how many of you invite new members to a service project only? Okay. How about inviting new members to a club meeting only? Okay. Anyone that would fall into the category, and you can have your answer, you can have more than one answer here, whatever is convenient based on the timing. Okay, couple. Anyone here, I don't know if anybody, now that we're doing it in a non-anonymous sort of way, anybody here that doesn't invite new members to join? Mary says we do both, whatever they're able to come to. Good. Okay, thank you for that. I always promote trying to get people to come to some type of a service or a special showcase for membership, only because if they come to a regular meeting, depending on what our meetings are structured like, it can be difficult for someone who has not ever been exposed to Kiwanis to fall into the traditions and things that we do on a weekly basis at some of our meetings. So one of the things that we promote with the boost itself is having this event to invite the potential members to at the end of this process. And by doing that, we have to figure out what it is we're inviting them to. What's our purpose with this event? Are we going to make it be an open house where they come and they hear guest speakers from our club talking about what it is that we do as a club? Are we going to invite them to a service project where they have the opportunity to learn about that, and then one-on-one we talk to them about that, or maybe two-on-one or whatnot, or maybe it's something else like a service project that has a little bit of an open house component to it. Our club is trying something, for example, on Wednesday night of this week called a traveling open house, where we're going to do a service project at one of our community partners, and then we're going to have them speak about how they utilize the items that we do for them, which are backpacks for them, and then talk about an overview of our Kiwanis Club as well. And then what we do is the next step, once we figure out what that event is going to be, our next step is to create our list. Then we're going to make our calls and schedule appointments and conduct meetings and do the invite. Now, that seems like a lot. So keep in mind that there's a few things here that when we get to that call portion and we have the schedule meetings and conduct appointments, that we might actually have an opportunity here to go in two different paths. When we get to that portion of this, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but we will schedule the appointment to go meet with a potential member. This is a process that we use in new club opening. And we use that meeting then to discuss Kiwanis at a pretty high level, but also put a local spin on it, and then invite them to that event at that personal meeting to learn more about what Kiwanis does in the community. Or we can skip those to scheduling appointment and conducting meetings and just make the calls and do the invite and invite them directly to the event. But what I would recommend there is that if we do that option two that I just talked about, we need to make sure that there is an appropriate agenda set to make sure we cover the basics of what Kiwanis does in the community there. We have just a chat here that I would be more apt to invite to member meeting now since we changed our structure. And what Penny's referring to there is that the Bald Eagle Nittany Valley Kiwanis Club changed their member meeting structure where they do an activity of some sort at their member meeting. They have one member meeting a month and one board meeting a month. So that's a good thought there. So once we determine what it is that we're going to invite them to, is this going to be the open house, a service project, or something else? That's when we have to have this conversation with our club and our leaders to determine that type of event. What we'll then do is that we identify the team that is going to support this event. In many clubs, it's simply the membership committee. In other clubs, it's the board of directors. In some clubs, it's all of them, depending on their size. As we discussed back in part one of our membership Mondays, it's important that we get the members all on the same page, and so that everyone knows what they're doing. And a simple planning meeting can take care of that. But some of the training should include, what are our club dues at any given time? When and where are our meetings? Who are the officers? What are some of our club signature projects? Just things that we would all talk about so that everybody is kind of promoting that united front and sharing the appropriate information. We also should be, during preparation, we should be creating and purchasing the supplies, whether that be food or some type of swag for the event. If it's a virtual event that we're inviting them to, perhaps it's important to send some handouts via email in advance so that they can reference them, even if we are going to do screen sharing, because some people do use their phones or their mobile devices of some sort to do that. If they're physical, maybe a Kiwanis pen or some other type of cool Kiwanis signage. And then obviously just have some small refreshments. It doesn't have to be huge to take away from the purpose of the event. Think about then some of your logistics, your date and time, where you're going to do it. Is there going to be a theme or a program? Make it an attractive venue based on the types of people that you want to include in your invite list. So for example, depending on your invite list, maybe looking at one of the hot new locations in town is going to be the best option there. Maybe we do someone, maybe we have a speaker who is going to talk about something that's currently happening or a current event, things like that. So making it relevant, we've used the term relevance in each one of these sessions, and I can't stress that enough, that making sure that this event is relevant for the community. We've already, and for those of you that missed it, in section 2, we already talked about making sure that our service projects are relevant, making sure that our knowledge about the community is relevant. We want to make sure that the agenda for this grand finale, if you will, is relevant also. Also part of this preparation process is creating a list, and it's important enough to have earned its own slide. So a rule of thumb here is to generate a list of hopefully 50 people. And this is harder than it sounds. If you can get about 1/3 of those 50 people to attend, you'll be well on your way to a successful event. Some folks that you can look at for a prospect list. Simple, first and probably the most common, friends and family. People like to join friends sometimes they like to join family, and it's something that you can do together and have a good time, as we all know. Coworkers. I just had a conversation with one of my coworkers after I came back from an event, and they had a lot of questions about what it was. And that's piqued their interest because they're looking to get more involved in the community. So we're going to continue that conversation. So you never know what their interests might be. Neighbors, perhaps it can be something that you've never brought up with a neighbor before, but it's, as you're talking across the fence, hey, you might as well bring it up. The worst they can do is say no. Some business contacts that you might have, or clients. Some people feel comfortable doing this, others do not. Others do it in only certain environments. Perhaps if we go to a chamber of business event or something like that. Our community leaders that we have, that's where some of the appointments come in, because it's a lot easier to make an appointment with them and talk about Kiwanis on their time rather than trying to get them to come to one of our events. Same with some of our church contacts, whether that be parishioners or whether that be the leader of the churches. Another good one is educators, although as we learned a few weeks ago, we don't want to necessarily reach out to them right now. This is not the appropriate time of year to do that, because they're wrapping up their year. But maybe early summer would be also a good one, or a few weeks into the school year as well. And then our community partners that we identified during our last session, those would be great ways to join and see this is what your support is doing for us. And really the possibilities are endless. Some ways to identify some of these folks, use I mentioned earlier, the 2-for-2 guide that every club received. There's an activity in there to talk about what you're missing in your club. Who do you need, and identify them and add them to the list. You could also make this a contest, make it a friendly contest within your club to see who can come up with the most names to add to that list. Recommendation here, though, would be to keep a shared spreadsheet so that you can have your full list in one place, so that if Tiffany and I are both in the same club and we both are thinking, perhaps we have a lot of the same network, that way we're not both saying something different to them, or at least so that we both know, hey, did Tiffany talk to you yet? Or hey, did Matt talk to you about coming to the Kiwanis open house? That just, it keeps it looking like you have a full structure, and that it keeps that communication going and sets you up for even better success. So after we have that list, we're going to move into the invitation process. As we talked about, our personal contacts and business networks. I would recommend doing this invitation probably about a month in advance of the actual event, and then send some weekly reminders, either via Facebook or email or text message, depending on your relationship with the individual. I know that some folks still do handwritten invitations, and that's great, because who doesn't like to receive mail that's not a bill, and this builds that excitement. And just a caveat with that, with virtual events, you can pare that down a little bit. You probably need some shorter lead times, because people tend to be a lot more flexible when it comes to attending virtual events than individual ones. If it's a community member or a contact that you don't know so well, I wanted to point out to you that in the Boost book, there will be examples of a call script to having this conversation with community leaders, business owners, and whatnot, for having that conversation. It's very easy. It's a guide basically on how you can frame that conversation to either get a meeting with them or invite them to the open house, depending on which path you've chosen to do. But it also then closes with a, hey, this is why you should come. But you always want to make sure that at the end of that particular conversation, there is an ask. Another thing that is recommended is to do public awareness about the event. Put it on Facebook, do press releases to your local newspaper, put posters up if that's something that works in your community. make sure that this is done. Again, this is why we want to do it a month in advance, because it takes some time for people to see all of these things. But then hopefully people would have seen a Facebook post or a flyer on a bulletin board at the grocery store or the post office or something. And when you're inviting them, oh, hey, I did see that. That sounds great. A little bit more on the making appointments or making phone calls. They're not necessarily cold calls, if you will, but they're basically just an inquiry call. In the Boost book, we do have that appointment setting script, but we also have the conversation script as well. But if you choose to go for the appointment setting option, setting up that appointment to talk to a prospect in person or via Zoom is important, and it can be outside of this open house. So this is kind of a dotted line over, if you will. Perhaps it's because they can't come and you still want to have this conversation with them. You still need to make sure that you explain to them what Kiwanis is and basically what's your ask. These scripts will give you a guide, but the important thing to do here, though, is to make it your own. Remember your 1-minute speech. Why you? What's your Kiwanis story? Why are you in Kiwanis, and why are you staying in Kiwanis, more importantly? Because those personal stories are better than anything that can be on any script. And the main reason is because when you do that, regardless of how much you support this organization and regardless of how long you've been in Kiwanis, when you flip over and start talking about your own personal experience with Kiwanis, it's going to come through, and your passion is going to be heard and seen by the person that you're meeting with. And thanks, Tiff. Tiff put some things in there about some handwritten cards. That's a great idea. Also, I went down, I designed something on my own as well. And I went down to our local print shop and just had them do it. I'm going to hold it, and I don't know if it'll see, if you can see it here, but it's just a quick little note card that I keep on my desk that I just, I'll jot a note to someone or a quick thank you or something like that. So thanks for bringing that up. We also have some talking points about specifically related to a superintendent or principal, to talk mainly about our service leadership programs, leadership opportunities, and scholarship opportunities. Basically to say, this is how your student is going to benefit from our Kiwanis Club, or this is how your student already benefits from our Kiwanis Club. And the same type of thing for our community leaders and our business leaders. The Kiwanis impact on the community, Kiwanis in schools, certainly, but then also some networking and social opportunities, a what's in it for them type conversation. Maybe it's great to network with other businesses that might be in the community. It has to be tailored for each one of those meetings that you're having or people that you're talking about. So that's why some of those are better off done one-on-one, or at least as a primer in advance to the event. So given that, I've done a lot of talking, but now it's your turn to practice. And so we're going to do some breakout rooms, some small ones. Before I stop sharing my screen, I'll put the scenario up there. So our first scenario, each group is going to talk about the same thing. We're going to talk about inviting a high school principal to a virtual open house. So you are a Kiwanis membership committee getting ready to go into the local high school, and you're going to invite them to a virtual open house or a regular open house. Let's do it that way. Let's do virtual or regular open house. High school principal. We're going to do this for about 10 minutes. I'm going to assign you here to breakout rooms. Before I do that, do we have any questions? Okay, so give me just 1 second here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we have 10 of you on here. So we're going to do 3, 3, and 4. Bear with me here. Okay, so just to recap, 10 minutes, you're going to plan, and then we'll share how to invite a high school principal to a virtual open house or an in-person open house. Tiff, you can pop in anywhere you want. I didn't realize you didn't show up on one of those lists because you're the host.
Okay.
So I'm gonna probably go to, I don't care. You tell me which one you want to go to. I'll go to the other one.
I'll go to room 2.
Okay. Room one's still having a very in-depth conversation about this topic. So in about 30 seconds, they're not going to have a chance, an option. There we go. Okay, so anybody want to share some of their best practices that they came up with?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Mary.
So I'm representing Breakout Room 3. So we talked about it. Oh, yes, and it was made up of Mike and Sarah and Shirley and myself. Am I missing anyone? Right? Okay. And so we talked about a variety of different things. One of the things that Sarah brought up that I didn't think of that was great was kind of working from the top down too, and reaching out to the superintendent, especially if there's not a key club and we're looking to start a key club, if that's like a secondary ask, as we're thinking down the line and how we're going to build this relationship. We had talked about doing a little bit of the history of our relationship with the school. So had we given out scholarships in the past? Have we had students that have graduated from that school that have been active in the club? Or do we have any parents of any graduating seniors or anybody that's active in the school that is part of our club to help build that relationship, particularly if this is somebody who has just stepped into a high school role, principal role. We talked about seeking retired teachers too, and eliciting their support. So it was kind of broad, foundational, not so much specific, okay, here's our game plan, but really just thinking about, what we were going to use as leverage and how we were going to build that relationship, not just with the initial ask, but the relationship of the school, thinking about guidance counselors too, and how we can, tap into them. And so, just kind of the scholarship aspect, asking the principal too, if he knows anybody in our club or vice versa, if our members know of this principal, and just kind of establishing relationships, just because members of the board might not know the principal directly, perhaps there's another club member that knows, and that might be a really good relationship and a connection to bring up there too. So just doing a little bit of research and then thinking about that as we're going into the invite for the virtual open house. I don't think we necessarily got to the details of the virtual house, but we really were spending good quality time focusing on step one.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Anything to add from anyone?
Matt, room 3, in room 3, we kind of got a little sidetracked, but then we brought it back around and talked about it's really important to get some buy-in from the principal. And so to talk about how is this going to make their school better, what benefit is it to the school, to the students? Do they have an SLP club? We can help with that. So just to really focus on what would be the benefit of him being, or her, of being a member. And in my group was Penny, Karen, and Tiffany.
Thank you. And that doesn't leave a lot of room left, but anyone from room 1 want to share anything that we discussed there that maybe hasn't been brought up already, although I heard a lot of crossovers.
I think Mary covered everything really well.
I think Conrad was indicating there that Mary covered a lot of it, and then he got a phone call. So this is true. I mean, there was a lot of crossovers there down to the guidance counselor. So now we're going to take about 5 minutes and we're going to do a second scenario, and we're going to talk about setting up an appointment with a potential member from the Boys and Girls Club. Now, keep in mind the biggest difference here, before we were inviting a person to an event. Now we are calling to set up an appointment. So we don't want to take the amount of time when we're calling to set up this appointment that we would be taking at our meeting. We want to keep this one short, sweet, and to the point, but we want to have it be enough that the Boys and Girls Club director or board member or whatever still has enough interest to be like, yes, I would like to meet with you to learn more about your Kiwanis Club. That's what we're getting at with this one. We want to get to a yes, I will meet with you. So I'm going to open this up again we're going to do about 5 minutes on this one, just in essence of time, and that'll really get your brain thinking. So I'm going to open up our breakout rooms right now. Okay, welcome back. That was a quick one, but Della, I'm gonna ask, Della's not back yet. I was gonna ask Della if she could go first. But anyone else want to share what their biggest takeaway was from their group?
I will.
Go ahead.
We just decided that the best way to try to get an appointment with the director is to entice him in what a great partnership the Kiwanis will be with his Boys and Girl Club and how they will benefit in joining us.
That's exactly what Della was going to share. Della is back now. But that's what our group talked about as well. Anything else?
Just adding, not just a local partner. I mean, we are an international partner with Boys and Girls so we already have that. So bringing that locally just makes sense, and having them to, just we were saying how we just show value to that director, or how many ways Kiwanis can help the Boys and Girls Club through scholarships, possibly a builders club, a community-based builders club, or anything that would benefit their kids will entice them to at least talk to us.
And being prepared when making that invite with talking points, Conrad brought that up, is critical. I don't know, Conrad, if you wanted to expand on that at all or not, but you don't have to.
I don't have, good, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to talk about the day of the event. And with that, we need to make sure that all of our team members know their roles or tasks. However you do this. Some clubs have done this enough that this particular stage, once you get here, it just happens. It just rolls with it. And I know that we're fortunate that in our club, we have a lot of members that are very good about this, and it just happens and it rolls. But when you're doing this for the first time, you want to make sure that you know what everybody's role is. Name tags, somehow to capture who attended, and you can do follow-up. That's going to come into play here. It's also probably prudent to send a reminder that day, either with the Zoom link or a reminder of the location as well, just so that you can make that personal contact. I usually will put in there, just a quick statement indicating, we'll see you there. If anything comes up, please, call me, and I'll include my cell phone number or something like that. So kind of anticlimactic there, but what we're going to do is shift gears from that event to a follow-up. We could have a session an hour long on just one of those events. So that's focused on, in the book, there's a hosting an open house guide as well, but having this follow-up is sometimes as important, if not more important, than the event itself. And so with the follow-up, it's important that we communicate to them. The one thing that is very critical here to understand is to be reminded not to be discouraged if not everyone joins. It's not always the right time. Don't take it personally. It's not necessarily something that the Kiwanis Club doesn't have to offer. There's plenty of success stories of people asking a potential member to join Kiwanis 2, 3, 4, 5 times even before you get to a yes. But keep them connected after this. Now you've made that initial connection. Keep them connected. Put them on your email or your newsletter distribution list. Invite them to your Facebook page. Point them to your website. Things like that. With the follow-up, how do we do it? A simple thank you, and I'm going to call out Della on this one. A simple thank you is not overrated. She is the master at just a simple thank you, and it makes people feel good. Feel free to use multiple channels. Handwritten notes, again, comes into that. You know, find your hook with that. You know, what is it that they maybe could have taken away? And that goes back to looking at the mission of both of the organizations and how this might be a natural partnership. But finally, ask for referrals at the end of it too, because regardless of whether they're a yes or a no, this is important because we can ask them, who of quality would you like in your Kiwanis Club? Who do you think would benefit the community by being a member of our club? And that's important as well. Once we've followed up with them and we have 15 new members joining our Kiwanis Club next month, it's time to celebrate and create that positive environment. We want to make sure that this new member is welcomed. So how are we going to welcome them? Well, there's several different ways to celebrate our new members. As you can see on your screen, here's an example of a social media post that celebrated a new member on their club's Facebook page or website. And it just introduces the member to the community. Make sure to get them involved as soon as possible on a service project or new program without overwhelming them, certainly. But also get to know them. Find out what drives them. What interests do they have that can be helpful to the club? And maybe use that as a way to do that. But most importantly, give them a member orientation. There's a great new member orientation available from Kiwanis International that covers everything from 10,000 foot to 1 foot off the ground. But there's also other opportunities out there for clubs to make that their own as well. And I do recommend that you make that orientation as local as possible. We also want to celebrate our current members. We want to thank them as well for taking the time to do this. Celebrate our project successes regularly and recognize our members always for milestones, their leadership that they do, and achievements. There are plenty of examples out there as to how this is something that our clubs are successful with. And then we want to also make sure we're celebrating our service leadership programs throughout the year, not just at the end of the year. We ask them to be part of our meeting agenda or ask them to partner. Don't always use them as just extra labor. Use them, use your opportunity with the service leadership programs to really make an impact on their lives as well, because that's why they're there. So all of this just puts the icing on the cake from our shiny club that we built last week. And a positive member experience will equal retention. People join Kiwanis because of the people that are there. The membership experience should be meaningful, and our members should be recognized and feel valued always. And these 4 bullet points are so very important in the culture of our organization that if one of these things kind of goes awry, that's where we need to dig in and take a look at what we can do to change that and keep this positive member experience going. You know, it's fun. I wondered why that didn't do anything, and I put all these fancy animations in there, and I forgot to do that. And Sarah's shaking her head at me because it's, that would have been cool. That would have been really great. That would have been a good one. But anyway, I digress. Who's ready to boost? We have reached the end of the actual boosting part of it. Next week, again, we're going to talk about technology. We've asked you of this in the past, but what I would ask is that what can you commit to today that you can put into practice, or at least start today, tomorrow, this week, prior to next Monday, that you can make sure that your club is ready to boost. Some examples include looking at your branding strategy, making sure that all logos are up to date, and all of your paraphernalia and your documents, the handouts and your leave behinds are there and ready. Think about creating a memorable open house, membership drive, big event, final act, something, and then how we're going to approach and ask members. An easy way to commit to this is make your own contact list. That's something that you can do while you're sitting, watching television, just running through some things in your head. As always, if you have questions or concerns, please let us know. We have a few minutes here at the end, certainly not a lot, but we do have these slides available. That reminds me, Lisa, as soon as I stop this, I will put the link in the chat box for the previous sessions as well. If you have any questions, our membership team leaders, of course, that's me. We have Sarah Zuleta, our district governor, Mike Coolbaugh, our governor-elect, and our trustee counselor, Tiffany Kaleo. That makes up your membership team leaders, and each region has a membership contact: Kathy Szymanski, Barb Byers, Joy Ashley, Penny Myers, Conrad Schlesinger, Christian G, Tiffany Kaleo, and Sarah Zuleta. So any questions here that we have towards the end here? Look at the chat box here.
I want to know why Mike doesn't have our t-shirt.
Yeah, I asked Mike if he could provide me a headshot of him wearing that particular t-shirt. And Mike said
I
he
don't
doesn't have
own
it.
that particular
So
t-shirt.
we need to rectify that
Okay.
somehow.
Ruined my picture. I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'd like to know why Sarah got the only sharp tool that they were using.
Well, the fun thing with that, cow, is we got to pick our own. So she went all
Yeah.
out.
You didn't even want to go there, right?
I was going to
No.
use a drill, but I didn't have the shirt, so I couldn't qualify for the job. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd fit into the only other person in the area that I know that has that shirt. It just wasn't happening.
Don't think you're gonna fit into that shirt.
No.
Anyway,
If you do, I might cry.
It might not fit you again if I put it on.
Probably not. That's right. Sarah asked me to take that picture last year and I just got home playing tennis. And so I was like a disgusting mess,
It is what it is.
it was fun.
Mary, I saw your question about the direct link. I do have that. I am just getting ready to find that, so I don't want to. Here it is. I found it. I'm going to put that in the chat right now for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I love the website, but sometimes it's like Pandora's box and I'm still
It
trying
is.
to figure out how to
That-
navigate.
I just was in that just a minute ago there trying to find it because it wasn't where I thought it would be because my mind worked just slightly different there. Okay, any final thoughts, final questions? Okay, don't forget our last and final membership Monday in May is next Monday at 7 o'clock. Same bat channel, same bat place. We're going to be talking about tech and resources. And fortunately, well, hopefully I'll have some assistance from our more technologically inclined folks to show that, since I obviously didn't do super with some of that this evening. But anyway, thank you all. Appreciate that. Sarah or Mike, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Other than I am not the techie person that you're talking about. I think you did great.
yes.
And besides which, Matt, when you have those things like going across the screen and flipping places, it's just like watching my hands. It's taken away from my message sometimes.
Sometimes it adds to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about technology in terms of recruiting and for Boost. We've learned a lot going through the pandemic and growing through the pandemic using obviously Zoom. I mean, we wouldn't have really depended on Zoom as much as we do now. That's huge. Online applications, and then hopefully this diagnostic tool that Matt and I are working on. So if the bugs our, if that works out, we will display that. But yes, a lot of technology next. Also just flyers. I'm going to talk about Canva. That's really a big thing about getting that just to show a good presence in your community through really good flyers. So we'll talk a little bit about that and social media things.
So is this like my training class that I have to be at next
Yeah.
week? So I don't have to bug you for Canva and everything else?
Yep,
Yeah, you
yes.
should probably
You
attend.
should probably be there.
Mhm.
You, Conrad,
Yeah.
everybody. Penny.
Oh, now.
Conrad, I think,
Hey.
I'm gonna make this new chairperson for everything. Her name is Sarah. I don't care how
Uh-huh.
many years she's removed from governor. Her-
Amen.
Sarah.
Chair of everything. Thank God.
Mhm.
That's it.
I,
Good luck
I
passing
do
that.
use- I do use Canva for our newsletter. I'll have you all know.
You
There you
do.
go.
Wow.
Hmm.
Cool.
Matt
Well,
doesn't even have to help me with that one.
That's how easy. It's easy. So we'll
That's
talk
how,
about
yeah,
that.
that's how easy it is.
That's how
the-
easy. That's
Penny
how
can do
easy.
it.
All right.
All right, well,
Well,
thanks,
lots more
everyone.
next week.
Have a great week, and we will see you all next Monday. Thanks again.
Yo.
See you guys.
Thanks so much.
Bye.